Hello everyone. I would like to talk about today a very interesting title and a very interesting concept. This concept is called the Saints of Chaos. And what that really means is that it's my playful approach of saying that when someone, you see, there's some people in our reality which feel like they have sinned. They feel guilty. And there's some people in our reality who feel as if they have not sinned and they're above the sin. So I want to say that the Saints of Chaos were those saints who they recognize that based on, regardless of whatever religious doctrine, in their action of being a good human being, in their intention to be a good human being, they were confronted with the gift of chaos to move beyond their physical dimension. So you see that compassion is actually a very great school and a very great path. The path of love is very huge because it dissolves you into your greater intelligence, which then harmonizes and aligns your action. And so when you become a gentler person and you actually experience love and communicate love very authentically, not like just go tell people, I love you without even knowing them. That's not like that, with a sense of appreciation for life and the life that you are and the life that is in front of you. And as you get that ability, you will see that the saint suddenly saw that in his application of a kind nature, he found his communication to become simply just something that was just emanating from his presence. So what that means is that when you become aware of yourself beyond personality, your personality gets permission, in other words, you have this knowing which you are completely just flowing through life. And so the most beautiful words are passing you by and you're not really looking at them because you are actually floating in a sense of conception that is not conceived but allowing it. Anyways, to continue on, the saint recognized that as he confronted and he was kind to others, he suddenly found the kindness of forgiving himself. So you will see that the biggest solution and the biggest ability for criminals who think that they are lost is to actually see that they must be able to forgive society before they can be forgiven, before they can find the kindness and good quality of their nature. So if you have wronged someone, my friend, it is not the responsibility of your reality to be forgiven. The person you have wronged, it's that person's responsibility to forgive you, to cleanse their own reality. But you must forgive life for having to put you there in a way that you see it was never you who was there. Acknowledge your existence and you will see there is no label of a criminal that could ever be connected to you, because your connection was not just to the actions you did. Because once you become the intelligence of the observance of all those things that you thought you did right and wrong, you will find the serenity of being and the doors will open to the love from above. So in other words, your greater sense of collective consciousness in regards to how your individuality is acknowledged in our reality. So we see that the saint visualized this man after a complete day. It's sunset, but after a complete day, from the beginning of his day, by being completely compassionate to everything within his moment. At the end of the day, sat by the sunset, and in other words, sat somewhere and was looking at the sunset and saw that he had been so kind that it's as if he had learned and observed more in giving to others than taking. Because in giving, communication flows, realities open up, and multidimensionality simply becomes the beauty of compassion. Because compassion is not just a fluffy idea that you think old men talk about. Compassion is the greatest idea, and those who emanate it are beacons to, in a sense, learn from. They are wonders of reality, those who have, in a sense, become so compassionate that they are the compassion of all. There are great men among us, and that includes you, because you are aware of all greatness. And so you must cultivate greatness within the self. You must see that you have the ability and the allowance to move past your limitations because you are already there. And so have that instantaneous knowing. Do not give delay. So at times I realized my thought process, my computing, my understanding of life was so slowed down because I was so convinced that everything was cause and effect. No, intuition is an instant. Realities open up in an instant. And you see that as you are cycling in the sidewalk, you're passing many trees with many branches, many realms of experience you're passing. And so every moment, it's simply your allowance to how you choose to perceive co-creation within your moment. Because think about it, man right now might not be comfortable in acknowledging himself in deeper existential ways. However, 1,000 years after we've played all the games of man, we will play the games of the inconceivable in the sense that we are transcending beyond man's ideology that was keeping a sense of man. So at times you see, it's a very interesting, in a sense, condition, I think. That when I look at reality, there are some people who are, in a sense, trying to acknowledge it directly, who don't know how to acknowledge it. There's some people, very few, who are acknowledging life directly, and there's some who are just convinced there's no such thing as anything, you know. And so they're in a sense sitting on the bus without realizing that the bus is right there, right? Because they have not chosen to go experience it, to go and open up to the comfort of the seat next to a stranger. You know, you must give yourselves the greater ability that, in a sense, is your momentum. So what that means is that you might suddenly open up and you might see that this lifetime is a leaf, and whoa, look at the vastness of my existence. I can't even see the roots, so I can simply be what I am, to then become part of that collective observance, which is that collective consciousness, which Mr. Within is playfully communicating. And so the saint would see that when he looked at that sunset, he even wanted to give himself to the beauty of that life. So when you become so giving and compassionate to external reality, internal reality simply becomes where you're present in. Because external reality is no longer doing anything. It's as if you need to feed external reality to, in a sense, then stop it and be observant. And what that means is that you must confront all ideology, in a sense, navigate your plane of existence as the pilot of consciousness beyond the mist and the confusion, beyond these clouds, and so have the clarity of the limitless open sky. Because clarity was that profound concept that said there is a sense of clarity beyond what we can even conceive. And so that is very profound when man has an ability in his vision to become infinity and then be that experience. Because that is the nature of multidimensionality, because it doesn't matter what ladder you take, it doesn't matter how you transition, it matters in where you are aware you are even in the first place. Because is there a place? Or is there simply an observer who could never be the object of observance? Smile as you know yourself, because your self-remembrance, your self-awareness is for you. These talks are not for me, they are for all who listen to them and try to extract meaning from sound and recognize they can do it much better. All I can say is that beyond interpretation, you will see that you're more than ideology, and so the saint and sinner burst. And so the saints of chaos is simply that saint who sat there and was so compassionate, so giving, that he did not just give all ideology suddenly away with such joy. He did not just give away any limitation with such joy. He became the chaotic observance of the bliss that has kept man's order. So what that means is that when you become existentially aware or life sensitive, when a caterpillar is on your hand and you are observing a butterfly around it also, you will see that it is so beautiful how in this chaotic vastness of experience, man has just in a sense, created a vending machine to go buy, let's say, a Coke from or something. Do you know what I mean? It's so fascinating when you see the vastness of experience and how solidified you're here, and so you become graceful. And so in ancient traditions, in the East, there has been this ideology that, and I feel this ideology is much closer to the Sufi and Dervish way of thinking. But it was one that it's as if there were certain categories, and I'm not sure if I'm saying this accurately based on the tradition, but this was my interpretation, so I want to share it with you. Because there was one stage which were those who were called, in a sense, the gamers, let's say. These were people who suddenly became aware of reality and the games of life, and as they became aware of it, they saw that, okay, it's more than the games that I thought I was losing in or winning in. There's something more, and so they become present in this sense of just being an existential movement. However, there's still shape, there's still idea, there's still someone. After that, there was another category, imagine of, let's say, the greater consciousness, or let's say if there was a greater consciousness sleep, there would be that of the person who had gotten rid of their ego. So what that means is that this person just was so peacefully present. He had just become that saint who was just emanating serenity because there was nothing there, right? But ideology is still present regardless of our experience of nothingness. Form is still present regardless of our consideration of it or awareness of it or not. So then there was another category when they saw that through a greater leap in self-awareness, there were those who would get an experience of their multidimensionality, but would suddenly see that they are more focused. So what that means is they would experience their liquid bodies, which makes their solid bodies think it's multidimensional, but it's actually one thing, right? So, one essence. And so, when they would experience these greater realities, they would come back and they could not stay shut. So they would go tell people, whoa man, I just experienced another dimension, and they'd be like, whoa, you're crazy, right? And so they were actually called the crazies. So this category was called, and so crazy as in they were communicating things of a higher awareness where the lower awareness had not yet had an ability to confront. Now, there was another leap in greater self-awareness, and that was the leap of man into a sense of existential drunkenness. And so, it was a form of ecstatic bliss, of a sense of having the experience and knowing of your collective and having your individuality be playfully drunk with it. So you're drunk on absolute experience, absolute truth. Think of it this way. And so your body suddenly gets an infinite potential of allowance as your presence and your whole reality shifts. And the reason I'm saying this is that the whole reason man was taking these leaps of self-awareness was to see that you go beyond the game, you go beyond the identity, because the game is originated from the player you choose to be, and then after you've acknowledged the player, you see that there are other games. So if you communicated, you'd be that category, and after that you would simply recognize that once your eyes had opened to the vastness of infinity, you would see that you are magnificently present. You are not insignificantly present in this reality. You as a being are very significantly present. And so, once we put down the beer bottles and get, in a sense, drunk on our internal experience, and in a sense realize that in finding Mr. Within, we're in a sense in a state of selfless observance that is engaging reality with infinite momentum and of possibility, because it knows it's eternal. So it's simply just like as if you think your life is bad, you'd see that your life's really not bad. It's as if like it's the golden ratio moving around, you know, so it's like a sine wave moving around, and you're just looking at the troughs, let's say, and you're not looking at the peak. So it's I think that's very important, and I hope I've said that correctly. So it's very, very crucial to know yourself in that way, because these are all stories. Any word that you hear for someone is a story unless you choose, with the spotlight of your attention awareness, make it significant. So you need to realize that it's very important for the saints of chaos to acknowledge chaos. So what that means is that the saint who thought he was a saint without actually doing any sins or anything, right, was a totally different saint than the saint who had acknowledged all confrontations of life, all crimes of life, and simply had been the compassion to say, let's continue on. And once that saint of chaos, as he looks into, let's say, the beauty of the sunset, which reminds him of his greater pupil, he dissolves. And as one is dissolved into experience, there's no longer you, but all that is that can be you. Because these are the fluctuations between these senses of multidimensionality. So in other words, the poetry which has explained our whole realities in life, the scriptures that have explained our realities of life, were simply explaining the transition of one aspect of consciousness into a greater self-awareness, for example. So what that means is that this transcendence was an introduction from a realm to a realm. And so this introduction is constantly happening because man is trying to get up some existential staircase. He's like, oh, I'm standing up. You know, the ape didn't decide to die. It decided to stand up and, you know, in a sense, get rid of the dust on his shoulders, and then in a sense open up suddenly to its multidimensional experience, which it after self-reflectively confronting itself becomes the light that is in the mirror, which is keeping all form in there, or to even in the sense of presence. So the teachings of the light within your eyes is very important, because once memories of starlight remember themselves, you know who you are regardless of a story. Like, you know where your house is regardless if someone says that's not your house, or you, in a sense, someone, you know, someone says like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know. You simply know. Be comfortable with getting to know things and recognize that you are cultivating knowing by your trust in life. And so the saint will find suddenly his presence. For example, that saint of chaos, that man who had that experience, you will see, you will walk around animals, you will walk around trees, and because you are not ignoring them, because you're completely dissolved in the grace of all shape, all form, all geometry, all life, everything is comfortable with you, because the whole plane of existence is comfortable with you, because of the pilot of consciousness knew himself before he ever could. So it's simply one of allowing our archetypes of good and bad to dissolve. And so many people who think that they should run from being a bad person to suddenly a good person, no, you need to confront the bad, you need to confront all the experiences that life has thrown at you, and then after saying, okay, I got it, I see what you're saying, life, yeah, okay, you're saying I'm a tough guy because, you know, I'm going through all the suffering, cool. Now, what is there next? So you must not let your experiences create sadness and stress and depression. I mean, it will naturally come. But I'm saying you want to keep your communication one of ability. And so when you put yourself in a reality where you think you're stressed or depressed, or you have a lack or a loss, you will manifest more of an intention that you're losing things in life. So it's as if you're just letting go of all those possibilities which were bringing flows to you, you know? It's as if we have many balloons and you just for a second look left and you don't see the balloons in your right hand. And suddenly some of them you hand becomes loose and they fly away, you know. But it's not a problem, because you could always get more balloons, you know. You could always get your dreams. You could always remember your dreams. There have been so many times in my experiences where I've had a certain vision, and I've noticed even though I've had my own vision of, wow, this could be crazy, I was innately always advised, stop your vision, and in the present moment, let the vision communicate. So at times you see an advanced communicator is never trying to communicate only what he has to say, but simply is a moment of natural being. So you want to be in a comfortable state of being and in a clear state of being, and then communicate authentically to then become very efficient in this plane of reality. You are communicating not just to your friends, but to life, to your moment of experience. And so if you clear up the bad terminology and language you have, that ridiculous self-talk of, oh, I'm this and that, and you get out of these unnecessary caves you create, you will see that you are an experience of the moment. And so do not try to shape the experience of the moment and then be sad when that shape is changing. So acknowledge death with the same beauty as you acknowledge life. Because there are greater doors to man's perception which once opened will have always been the greater ability within him. You will see your potential to be present in any ideology, reality, form and shape is all within you, because it is kept that way. That's how the plane designers created the plane, right? So, in a sense, you, because your design is really how you view the design of life. To say this actually very deeply. In other words, when I say deep, that means sometimes forget even what I'm saying. Don't forget what I'm saying, but just find the significance based on your experience. And that will become clarity. That will become a better use of your awareness. So the greatest thing that man can really do is not update his gadgets, but is to update his awareness to all form. So you're in a sense increasing the quality of your experience with trust in life and a compassionate view. And in a sense, for the most part, and for this conversation, that is all you need. May the saints of chaos beautifully and gracefully always remember that which they have already seen. You are beyond, your intelligence is beyond your greatest idea. It is that which is pulling your greatest idea to its transcendence. And so know yourself to be the wonder of the unknown. And so as you love life, life will love you in such surprising ways, you know. So I hope that this talk has served you. For the saints of chaos always knew that within them all order was always kept. Order was always kept. Much blessings and namaste.